Hey everyone, welcome to the late night restaurant show. You know what? Dominic's not here today and we miss Dominic big time. He's in a knitting conference in Cincinnati. He's a big knitter. He likes knitting socks. He's a big sock knitter. And he's also the food safety guy for Canada. You know, everyone knows Dominic. But he's also in Cincinnati today knitting socks at the competition to see who has the best sock knitting capabilities. So that's where Dominic is today. He's going to miss out on our amazing guest that we have here. You know what? She's also a podcaster, and you know what? She's a rock star. So we're going to introduce you to our guest here in a second. But first, here's our show, and you know what? Enjoy this well, I don't say podcast. I almost said podcast, but we all know it's not a podcast. If you don't know it's not a podcast, you should check out our new swag store called Swag Sucks. You can go and grab a Not a Podcast show there, or t-shirt there, hat there, dog bowl, pillows, you name it. We also just have new Adidas and Under Armour shirts there that say Not a Podcast now. So you can actually get some cool swag. I think it's called, well, we call it Swag Sucks. But you can get some cool stuff there. That's not just generic, you know, the Fruit of the Loom stuff. Not there's anything wrong with Fruit of the Loom, but it's not the stuff that shrinks when you get swag. Usually you go and you wash it the next day and it shrinks 5 sizes too small. This is Adidas, Under Armour stuff. Awesome. It says Not a Podcast on there. Swag Sucks. So check out our store and our show. And then let's wish Dominic all the luck at his knitting sock conference symposium contest in Cincinnati. Anyways, we'll be right back after this. There we go. Hey, Kenzie.
Jay, how are you?
Do you think Dominic's going to kill me for that?
I was like laughing. Yeah, that got me.
Do you think Dominic's at the first ever annual sock knitting contest in Cincinnati?
You know what? I wouldn't doubt it. You know?
He's going to kill me. We launched our Swag Sucks store, and we were giving away pillows, and I told him that it came out of his budget.
Oh,
so, nice. He's like, what? I said it's on LinkedIn. It says we told you on LinkedIn. He goes, yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love him to death. So we have to wish him luck at his sock knitting contest.
He better come out with a win. That's all I'm.
You know what? He can knit a good sock.
Well, that's a good skill to have. So
he's also the food safety guy, so he's awesome. Anyways, let's talk about you today. So Kenzie Osborne. I was thinking about your last name today, and I went to school with a gentleman called Jeremy Osborne, and I haven't thought of his name until I saw your name and getting ready for today's show. Go, you know what? It's a good last name, by the way.
Thank you. I feel like it's a good last name. I like it.
It's definitely when you say it's a rock star last name, it actually is.
Actually, okay, I have a funny story though. So I got a dog. I got a dog in COVID, and I didn't know dogs have last names. Like I didn't know that was a thing. So
really?
Yeah. So when you like register them, they actually have a last name, but I didn't know that. So I named him Ozzy because it was my brother's nickname.
No.
So his legal name is Ozzy Osborne. So every time I take him to the vet,
Serious? No.
This is for Ozzy Osbourne. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know.
That is priceless. That is awesome. Well done.
So.
All right. Well, let's talk about you. More than that. I love that. All right. What do you do? Let's just give us everything. Throw it out.
Yeah. What do? I do a lot, but the bottom line is I love helping people to just be happier and be healthier with food. My story sort of all started, which is, it's been quite a journey, but I, growing up, had a pretty severe eating disorder. And through that, a big part of my recovery was actually learning how to cook and being in kitchens and being with real food. So much so that I actually wound up going to culinary school and learning how to prepare delicious food that is also nutrient dense. And I just love helping people to be able to bring that into their home. So I do that, and I talk to chefs from around the world about how much they love food too, because there's a lot to talk about there.
I have so many questions for you today. And you have a podcast too, so you got to tell people about that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where I talk to the chefs.
What's it called? What's your podcast called?
Behind the Plate. Because we talk about everything, the love, the flavors, the stories behind the plate. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I am, if I'm allowed to say this, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I hate to tell you, I am a little as well. So, right. But we don't do a podcast. So I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done a podcast. We don't do a podcast. But you know, it's awesome. I have so many questions to you regarding food and nutrition and healthy. Is it called healthy eating today? Like, are we using that terminology, or is that gone, or what's now? What's the proper way?
I think there's so many words to use. I always think of nourishment. Like, you just want to feel good with food. And I don't think that just means nourishment for your body. I think it also means nourishment for your soul. Like, food can be something that is so tied to memories and how we feel and experiences that I think healthy eating really needs to be something that encompasses foods that you love and also foods that love you back and make you feel really good.
I have to tell you a story. I know this show's all about you, but I got to tell you a story about that. You made me think of something here. So I did a talk I think it was probably 2018 or 17, like that, for a senior home, like a senior conference.
Yeah.
And for, retirement residents. And at the time, have you seen the pod? They were using like Apple Pods, I think they were called, or whatever, music, and they were putting seniors with dementia and stuff and putting music into their ears, and they would turn back into like normal people. It was incredible. Right? Do you remember that? You saw it? Oh, you got to check, Google it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. So why I say this, I'll get to my point here. It's a long journey here. Hold tight. Let's drop in. Here we go. So why I say that is that they turned, like their Alzheimer's and everything else, they kind of disappeared, and they turned back into these people, and they would start dancing and stuff or singing to this music as if they were normal. The music was bringing back that memory. Yeah. So I said, okay, that's a sense. I think it's a sense, right? Like it's using audio to bring back memory. I said, I think we can do it with food, right? Because when you there's so much memory, as you point out, in relationship to food. Yeah. So I did this talk, and I actually filled the room full of hot cookies, like right out of the oven. And we have this huge table in the middle, and we've made this huge pile of chocolate chip hot cookies. And when the people walked in for my lecture about this relationship to food and how food can create memories, and how do we use that for seniors and in other homes to also encourage them to eat better or eat more or bring back the memories of your mom. And the goal is for them to, when they walked in, is to bring their memory back to when their mom made cookies, right?
Oh my God.
So when people were walking into the room, they're like, oh, this smells like my mom and this and that used to do this. And I'm like, yeah. That was what we had to do. But I think I really believe it. I really believe those are the things that we kind of forget. And we remember the bad ones, we remember the good ones, remember everything in that. And I think the more that we can do that and keep the brain, I guess, not dealing with those kind of those cruel situations that happens to these people, young or old now, because they're getting younger, is that we use food to bring back memory, and maybe it helps. I don't know, but it was a great experiment.
Well, it makes sense because like food is one of the only things that really involves all senses. Because it's like the sight of the food when it's that bright color or really pretty. Or I remember my grandpa, he would make this, he called it the Mountain Moor meringue because his last name was Moore. And it was just this meringue pie that was like higher than the height of like, but like you see this, there's the sight, there's the smell, there's the taste. There's even, they've seen, like the crunch of a chip, like even that can initiate certain memories and just feel so good. So it's just such a sensory experience when you have a meal that it makes sense though to bring up memories so quickly.
I think that's the thing is we're gonna have a cool this is gonna be a great show, by the way, because I have a question. Well, I just want to say this because when do we start eating bad in our lives? Like, when do we start to go down that, and not saying that we always do it that way, but a lot of people are, and we can look at the statistics and everything else. Obviously everyone's kind of going that way, but when does that trigger? When do we see that switch over and people start to navigate that way? Is it financial? Is it emotional? Like, when do we start to see that switch over?
You know what? I think it actually starts really young.
Really?
I do. So, I mean, food marketing is so tailored to children, right? And it's like all these big colors. It's right at their eye level. And the processed foods, there's something that we call a bliss point. And it's a combination of fat, salt, and sugar that makes a food like so tasty.
You called it a bliss point?
It's called the bliss point. Yeah. And it's actually a thing.
I'm writing notes.
Take it. And that makes a food so tasty so that we want to keep eating more of it. Almost think of it like when you have a chip, it's hard to just have one. You're just going to want to keep wanting more.
Yeah.
So
is that the bliss point when you eat more? Like,
it's called this bliss point that you just keep wanting more of it. And you almost don't, like, the flavor doesn't get overwhelming in your mouth. And so you just want more.
It's so good. This is, like I said, this is really good. Because why I get excited about it, because I'm always trying to eat healthy and everything else. My kids are on me every second of the day. And trust me, I used to work in a gym and I used to work out and everything else. And then it was honestly my first daughter, which I love her to death. But then it just kind of things slipped. And now I got to go back to the gym. I got to be going to the gym. I got to go to the doctor more often. Maybe it's because I'm getting old, all these things. But which I don't mind, because I lived it, up into my probably 27, I think it was when it. But one of the things I always noticed is after so many chips, let's say potato chips, you don't even know you're eating. Like it's just like like when you stop. How do you stop the blitz point? Can you derail that or what?
So the thing is with those processed foods, right? They're stripped of a lot of nutrients.
Yeah. And
so you're feeding your body, but it's not what your body needs. So you don't get full as quickly. And so what I like to recommend is just adding something to that. So if you have a bit of chips, fine, but maybe have that with, if you like tzatziki, and then maybe some, if you like cucumbers or red peppers or baby carrots or snap peas, something like that. Ooh, there's my pup. There's Ozzy. But
you you have to get his wife's name. Dog. You have to get another dog. You have to get a Sharon. You have to get a Sharon.
That would be hilarious.
You totally gotta get a Sharon. Get like one of those little. Get like a little yappy one.
Oh my god.
Like a Chihuahua.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say Chihuahua.
Sorry.
That would be golden.
That would be great.
But yeah, so with the bliss point, you'll want, with any sort of processed food, you want to sort of pair it with something that is actually going to provide your body with nourishment, so that your body's getting the vitamins, the minerals, the fat, protein, carbs that it actually needs. So you'll feel full a little bit longer, and you can kind of mix it with some of those other foods that you like. But
is it neurologic?
That's sort of up for debate. So it depends, because especially
you tell me what you think.
There's a huge debate when it comes to sugar as to whether it actually does have addictive properties or whether it doesn't.
Now, I've heard that on the radio that it doesn't. And then every parent goes, it does.
It's definitely in debate. And I mean, I think it's hard to tell, because is it something that we're just so used to and that's so palatable and tasty, or is it actually causing some sort of like neurological change in our brain? And there's not really conclusive evidence, so it's interesting. But we do know that sugar and processed sugars will very likely increase cravings and increase hunger. And so if it does that and you're hungry and you're having more cravings, you're probably going to eat more sugar. And then we just get into this spiral of eating more and eating more and eating more. And so that's where pairing it with something else can be so useful. Like if you have a cookie, have it with a side of, I don't know, if you like Greek yogurt and fresh fruit, or, you know, something like that to balance it out a little more.
Now, Simon Sinek recently had, I forget the lady he had on his show recently, talking about eating foods in different, like eating vegetables first and then you eat your meat. Is that really true? Is that, no, I'm going to say true, because Simon's will be like, no, it is. No, but like, is that really a thing? Like, is that more and more where it's the sequence of how you eat your food will also help the way it's digested or how your body uses the nutrients?
So it's funny, right? Because nutrition is all relative, and that's not usually the first thing I would go to if I'm helping somebody eat healthy. Like that's not generally speaking what I would look at first. And the main mechanism by which that works is, just imagine you eat, I don't know, a burger, fries, and then you try and have your vegetables. The likelihood is the vegetables are going to be the one that gets left behind, if anything gets left behind. But if you eat the vegetables first, then you're more likely to fill up on those vegetables, get those vitamins, get the minerals, get the fiber, and then you might just wind up eating a little bit less of the burger, a little bit less of the fries, or, you know, a more moderate portion size of those other foods. So I think it's more of a mechanism of, at least now you're getting the vegetables in, instead of sort of like an afterthought.
Yeah, I totally get it. So I have so many questions. So I have another question here on this, because
go for it.
Now, are we able to fix where we're going? Like, we're not, like, the numbers are going up. We're not seeing people, you know, get healthier, it feels. Are we getting healthier, or are we still on the road of the derailment that we see happening right now?
Well, I think the big change is two big changes. So one in the food processing industry, like now when you go to the store, about 60% of the foods there are ultra processed.
60%.
So, which is wild.
That is crazy. Again, ultra processed.
So ultra processed means, so like a processed food could be like canned beans or dried, like a beef jerky, or like a dried fruit, because it is processed, but it's not like, it's still mostly natural ingredients. Ultra processed are like, you've got a lot of additives, you've got lots of, say, sugars, or artificial sugars, or preservatives, things like that. That would be like your frozen dinners or your chips or your cookie, like things like that would be the ultra processed. And wow. I don't want to come out of this saying that processed foods are bad, because processed foods can still be a part of a diet. That's fine. But we're getting so far into that processed food part, that we're not eating enough of the whole foods. And quite frankly, I think a lot of people, especially people my age, don't know how to cook with them. Like, you give them an egg and they don't know what to do with it, or you like some like, and this is, I am not blaming the people. I think it's the way that our society is going. Some won't even know how to cook rice, right? And so that, not having those basic skills, well, why would you go to the grocery store and buy all these whole foods when you don't know what to do with them or how to make them taste good? You're just going to go and get the frozen dinner. And so I think that's a huge issue right now, is in part the culinary knowledge, and not like making extravagant meals, just a basic meal.
Basic eggs. Yes.
That like tastes good and uses mostly whole food. Wow.
Are we gonna get better? Like, are we getting it healthier one day, or is it like when like there's got to be like, is it the cost? Is it like, are we getting lazier? Like, are we getting like less educated? Like, my kids know more about nutrition than I ever even think of.
You know what? I don't think it's the knowledge of nutrition. I think a lot of people know the broad basics of nutrition.
Is it the stress?
Now,
I think we're more stressed.
I think it can be time. It can be energy. Okay. Like, we're such a go society that you come home at 5:30 p.m. and you don't want to cook dinner. And if you don't know how to cook like an easy dinner, then that's a big feat. Who was I talking? I was talking to this with I was talking about this with Mark Murphy. Okay. And he was saying, some people that he knows, it might take them 20 minutes to chop an onion. Well, if it takes you 20 minutes to chop an onion, then to make a meal is going to take you an hour and a half for just a basic meal. And if you're already getting home from work at 5:30 and then doing that, it's a lot. So I think it's time. I think it's culinary knowledge. I think it is perception of cost. And by that, what I mean is processed food seems a lot cheaper, but whole foods can be just as cheap. It's just, the thing is the starting bill is going to be more expensive. Right?
Yeah. Well, here, I'm going to share something with you, Kenzie, is that I don't think, okay, I have this theory, and because I work in the restaurant industry a lot. Yeah. And that's my area. But here's the thing, and we look at this from chefs, okay, and restaurateurs. Who taught us how to buy groceries?
That's also really, like, a very valid point, because I don't.
Right, but like no one, usually it's our parents.
Yeah.
Well, our parents, and then who taught them? Yeah. And then who taught them? Like there isn't a class, and there should be a class on how to buy groceries. Yeah. And like this is way off. So I remember listening to this show like many years ago, like probably 10, 20 years ago. And there was after the Columbine shooting in the United States. And there's a guy that came on there, and they're doing a talk show like, what should we do about the gun problems that we have? And the guy said, stop selling bullets. It's that simple. Stop selling the bullets. You can sell guns, but it's the bullets that are killing. It's not the gun. And I was like, he's got a point. Like, stop selling bullets. That's the key. Right. So I'm thinking about the same thing when we look at what we have in this space as well. Right. Like how do we stop, how can we educate more people on these things, but stop necessarily giving them the ability not to, like, we need to teach them more on how to buy groceries, because we haven't given them the right, I guess, ability to make the right decisions on when they buy groceries, how they buy groceries, or what there is. And that goes all the way down into the chef's world. Like the chefs, like there's some schools that may show you how to order, but no one really understands the right way to do that. Right. Like, I think we need to nip it there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely a big piece of it. I also think, sort of along the same lines, I get a lot of questions of how to read like a nutrition facts label, or how to read a ingredient label, right? But with that, the UK is like worlds ahead here. They have so many substances or chemicals or preservatives that are banned that are still some some of the most common things that we use here, and they're banned for known relationship with health issues. And so what's actually kind of funny to do is if you look up a product, some sort of cereal or even some of like fast food restaurant ingredients in their meals, if you look at it in Canada or the States and then you look at the same ingredients in the UK, they're going to be different.
Really?
A lot of the time. Yeah. So it's so interesting to see that, because we know that there are health concerns, but just in North America, we're not really doing as much about it as the UK is, and Europe in general. So, yeah.
Is that like, I hope we get better, because it'd be kind of nice. But I think when you look at the restaurant industry, I think more and more chefs are becoming very aware of how they're cooking and what they're cooking with more than anything, I think, nowadays. And I think it's moving like you think about like 10 years ago, everything was about local, and I agree with that as well. And I think when you look at it's shifting over to sustainability. I was in Chicago a month ago. I didn't hear a lot of sustainability talk. Are we going to see more and more over this clean deck kind of model for restaurants?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be great if we do. I do. So you're the expert on this side, because I don't know when it comes to food products that are labeled as I don't know, you could label it as healthy, you could label it as organic, you could label it as this or that, and the price of that product increases a lot, just because they can mark up the prices when that happens. So I don't know what it would be like from a restaurant perspective, if that would also drive costs up as we go towards that.
Well, but I think more and more people will pay for it. Like,
that's true too,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think you see that today. Like, and here's the two things. And I think the more that we educate people on that, let's back to that education thing. And I think, and here's okay, we're gonna get into. Sorry, I'm all over the ADHD today. So I say this because I think what happens is we complicate the education process of telling people about nutrition or how to eat and everything else. Even the bloody labels on the back of stuff is so bloody confusing. And then we use big words that no one knows what the hell they are. So I think we need to bridge the gap within. Well, first we'll start with education. We need to make it easier and simpler and funner and not so generic. Like, and then don't go too far over where now it's too playful in a sense. But we need to do that, and we need to do little bits at a time. We need to chunk it out, as they say it. We need to drip it constantly into our society of these little things more and more.
Yeah.
I think we need that. And then I think also we need to make those labels. We need to make those labels so we understand them, and we need to make them true. I love some products where it's like, eat the bag of chips and this is how much calorie is, not 400 and some grams or 40 grams. Like, it's like, just tell us what the hell it is, because I'm going to gnaw this bag back.
The serving sizes are funny because, like, for chips, a lot of times it's like 10.
Yeah, 20 chips.
And you're like, I eat that when I'm debating whether to eat chips or not.
Exactly. That's just warming up.
What are you talking about? But no, you're so right. And again, that it goes a lot back to the food product marketing. You know, if you put certain things on it, a big one is the kids' breakfast cereals. You'll see a lot it'll say a source of 18 vitamins and minerals. And you're like, yes. And also a bunch of like sugars and added chemicals and additives. And a source of sort of just means about 5% or a little bit higher of your daily values. So that's not a ton of those vitamins and minerals. I mean, you could eat a couple vegetables and get way more than that. But it makes it so confusing because you look at the box and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a source of 18 vitamins and minerals. This must be so good for me. So they know how to market that kind of thing.
I think we need to call it out, because I love marketing to death. and it's my forte. But I do think it's an area where we need to be more truthful within that, because I think also as marketers, you have a responsibility, I think, also to do what's right. And sooner or later, well, and there's a big call out nowadays. I think more and more people are calling out those things, those situations more and more because of social media, right? Like social media is really fueling that. And I think we need more and more of that. We need more people like you as well, be able to educate us and share more of the knowledge of what we're doing out there. We really do. We really do. Like we do. And this is the thing, is I always say everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs a nutritional coach as well.
You know
what? I really do.
It's true. And I always get a question about like nutrition coach versus dietitian. And what is that? And it's so confusing.
Now, how do you want to be? What do we call you? Like, where do you fall in? Are you both? Are you one day this, one day that?
I am. So I am a nutrition coach. I'm a natural nutrition clinical practitioner, which is a really long name. It's a certification within Canada that you can get. The big thing that I say to people is what I do is I help, because of my culinary background, I really help you eat more whole foods in a way that makes sense for you and that is easy in your lifestyle and that feels like you can really enjoy your foods, and that protects your health, right? But what a dietitian would do, or if somebody would go and see a dietitian, it might be if they already have something, like maybe they have kidney disease, or maybe they have like a damaged liver, and they need like a very specific, that's like a prescriptive medical plan when it comes to food. So I don't do that side. I'm more helping people just eat healthier and be happier and do it in a way that's easy and free and exciting. And that's what I love doing. Because when you can tell somebody that, oh my gosh, if you just change this little thing, you could feel so much better, their mind is just blown.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, what is some of those things that you find people, that's that one thing over? That one, we've been saying lately, it's that 1 degree more, because if you take regular boiling water, you move it 1 degree, great steam. Yeah. What's the 1 degree more that you tend to tell people, and they're like, no way?
So there's 3 things, and that's a hard question to ask because generally speaking, I would want to know what they're like breakfast.
Yeah. Come on. I'll give you that. Give me the generic.
But no, so the 3 are protein, fiber, and fats. That if one of those is missing or not great, in every meal, you want protein, fats, and fiber. And so say you're having like a morning bowl of cereal. This was one of the clients that we just made something so awesome for her. So she was having a regular bowl of cereal. The first thing we did was we swapped out the milk for Greek yogurt mixed with a little bit of honey. So it was more like a parfait almost at that point. But immediately increasing the protein allowed her to feel more satiated, less hungry.
Really?
It's nice and creamy. And then so she did that for a little bit. And then we added fruit to it, which added antioxidants. It added fiber. And she chose whatever fruits she wanted. And then we added nuts and seeds, whatever nuts and seeds she wanted, or peanut butter or almond butter, whatever you like. That adds healthy fats, which helps the absorptions of certain vitamins and is also really linked to satiety. So we just did that like one little step at a time. She was thinking she would have to start making like omelets or avocado toast, these extravagant things. All we had to do was just swap the milk for a bit of Greek yogurt. You also could just blend protein powder into the milk if you wanted the milk still, and that would increase protein. And then add a bit of fats and fiber, and bang, 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 you're done. She still has a bit of the cereal on top because she likes that flavor. That's fine. But now we've added a bunch of other stuff and feeling so much better. So it doesn't have to be complicated.
I was going to say, I get too complicated. Well, I have the complicated questions. They're simple questions because it's me. So one, is it true that I see this a lot? I'm going to ask you some probably social media things because I see it all the time. Is it true that increasing the fat in some meals, like if you're going to have this, take out the bread, but increase the fat, like let's say, like an example, horrible, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this fast food stuff, but you take the Baconator and you can have the Baconator, but you don't eat the bun, but you can have the burger patties and the bacon and the cheese and the mushrooms. I'm getting hungry. Can you eat that? But if you have the bun, it's going to be bad. Like, is this combination of including the breads now is throwing things off? Because I see people ordering non-bread burgers all the time now.
Yeah. Is it true? So again, it's sort of this concept of good, better, best. You still want carbohydrates. So
you still want the carbs. You still want the carbs.
But it's the type of carbohydrates. So you want ones that are higher in fiber. So the buns that you get on a burger on fast food are very refined carbohydrates that aren't very nutrient dense. But if you had something like even a whole grain piece of sourdough or like a fresh bakery bread, or if you had beans or rice or, something else that was more of a whole grain or a higher carb, that's helpful. And then, so what happened, 20 years back was everyone got so afraid of fats that we took fats out, and it was low fat everything.
100%.
But as you know, when you take fat out, you take flavor out. And when you take flavor out, you need to add that back. And the food industry decided to add that back with a lot of sugar. And that has been harmful. So oftentimes people are afraid to add fats to their meal, but that is what makes a meal taste good. It's what makes a meal satiating. You probably want more of the plant-based fats, like more of those unsaturated fats. But you want like a good balance. So I always say imagine a plate, you want about half of the plate to be vegetables, maybe some fruits. You want quarter of the plate to be that high fiber carbohydrate. So that could be a piece of toast, like grain. It could be brown rice, quinoa, beans, sweet potato, whatever. And then a quarter plate you would want to be your protein source, right? So, and then embedded in that, you would cook in some healthy fat, or you might add some avocado to your salad, or you might add some nuts or seeds somewhere. But that's what's going to be balancing. So it's not just about like, oh, I'm going to toss out the bread and load up on bacon, cheese, and burgers. Maybe not the best idea.
Everyone was thinking it.
The concept of choosing more whole grains or whole carbohydrates with protein and lots of vegetables, that's awesome.
All right. So I have one more question. And first of all, I love this. I can sit down. We get like 2 hours later. Okay, I have a question for you because it's all over. Like, it is everywhere. Give us the lowdown on this whole fasting thing.
Oh, my God. I'm like, again.
Is this another one of these things that you have to go out there and fix the world because we get on this? And please tell me we can eat.
So again, it's absolutely not the first thing I would ever look to. So really? Fasting, there might be some metabolic benefits of fasting, but the reality is if you go from eating, say, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then you just eat the exact same thing from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., like, you're eating the same thing. So it's not going to change the nutrients that you're bringing into your body. How it does help some people is I could say, hey, Jay, you can't have any ice cream or cookies. Okay. So I could say that to you. Yeah. Right. That may not feel so good. If I just said, Jay, you're just not going to eat after 6 p.m., which is when you normally have your cookies and ice cream at like 9 p.m. on the couch, then now you're just not eating those foods. Right. Or you're eating them a lot less. And that in turn may help with whatever your goal is, healthier, weight loss, etc. But again, that's usually not the first thing I would go to, because you can be really healthy and eat at 8 a.m., 8 p.m., etc. It's just like, what are you eating? And if you're prone to eating a lot or snacking a lot at night, and then you just stop doing that because of intermittent fasting, well, it's not because the intermittent fasting was something so special. It was because you stopped eating all those chips or cookies or whatever.
Those extra calories, right?
Right. So again, it's not the first thing I would go to. And there is some research that shows metabolic benefits, but I would say what you eat is a lot more important than what time you eat at. So
you sure get cranky. I'll tell you that.
Such a
well, you get so you must get asked that question a lot because it is everywhere. Everyone's got this. it's everywhere. And
it's everywhere. Yeah. And for some people, like for specific, again, it can help with some metabolic conditions, but like I say, that would be if somebody is already eating an extremely healthy diet, they're already exercising really well, and they're just stuck. That might be something that we try, right? As like a final step. But if someone's coming to me and they're not quite at that point where they're eating a balanced diet, or they're not quite at that point where they're exercising regularly, we would go to that far before I would go to.
This is awesome. Anyway, so how do people reach out to you? And I know Dominic's gonna be like, yeah, don't let me do this. So how do people reach out to you? Because I always say, just Google people.
Yeah.
Can people find you? Like, do people come? Like, how do you help people? Like, how do we get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, my handle is just Coach Kenzie Osborne, and I'm always open for DMs or to see some of the content that I post, and to see the chef interviews too, because those go up, little clips of them go up on Instagram too. And then my website is super simple. It's just kenzieosborne.com. And that's where you can find some blog articles. I do some events. I have an awesome community that I love. Like, there's incredible people in there. And we just share healthy recipes, hacks, and like our goals, the ways in which we're, eating healthier. It's such a blast. There's some really awesome people in there. So I have that community, and then I do coaching as well if people are really looking to take a grasp on their nutrition.
That's awesome. Well, Kenzie, thank you so much, and for educating us a little bit, killing some of these myths. I know he's at his knitting event on socks, and hopefully he's winning. But you know what? I just find it fascinating on your knowledge, but the way that you approach it is so calming. Like, you really are an awesome coach on that. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today, and hopefully everyone can learn a little bit. But also just the fact that I really think everyone needs, there's a lot of things I'm starting to say now. I think everyone needs a podcast. I think everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs a nutritional coach. Like, I just think sorry, people, put a lot of work to you. But I think it's important. We don't, here's the thing I think about coaching, and I'm learning this from coaching restaurants, is that there's just so much for people to like either do or to research or to listen to or to be guided today. There's just so much that's on our doorstep of understanding. And if we don't have people to help us unpack a lot of that stuff all the time, it's hard and it's frustrating. And then you do the 9 o'clock at night ice cream and chips and stuff. Yeah. So the stress, exactly. Right?
Well, I know. And I mean, coaching,
especially nutrition. Nutrition is massive.
I find that so helpful because, and of course I'm a little bit biased, but it is so helpful because otherwise you're sort of just jumping into like a 30-day challenge or a meal plan, and it works for a really short period of time, but you're not actually learning how you can make nutrition really easy in your lifestyle, or address food relationship challenges that you have, or just learn how to navigate events or parts of your life that are a very real thing. And then you know that accountability, that little buddy by your side.
You need the little buddy.
Everything, and just customizing it 100%. Making sure that what you're doing is actually working for you and helping you feel better and helping you live better and making sense. Yeah. I
was going to age myself and say the kazoo. You don't even know what that is, probably. The little kazoo. Okay. So on the, I think it was either the Jetsons or the Flintstones.
Okay. I know those ones.
Little green guy, and the green guy would come up, and it was Mr. Kazoo, I think his name was. Anyways, the kazoo, I haven't heard that in so long, but it was this little guy that always told him stuff to do, right? So I usually call that Dominic, but I'm going to call him little kazoo now. Anyway, he's going to just eat me alive on this one.
Yeah, so you're in big trouble.
Yeah, I'm in big trouble now, Mr. Kazoo. You know what? He might look like him too. No. Anyways, Kenzie, thank you again. Everyone, please check out our website. Incredible. You are incredible. Thank you for being an amazing coach. Thank you for also giving us a little coaching today as well. And everyone else, check out your website. It's absolutely mind-blowing. But thank you for spending today with us.
Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate you having me.
All right. We'll see you later.
Bye.